On today's show, who's the better grading company for Libertads, NGC or PCGS? Stay tuned and find out.
Your winner by unanimous decision, and still World Heavyweight Champion of the World, the Mexican Libertads. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Titty Hunter.
Thanks for joining again, everyone. Last time around, we were comparing the 1 ounce Silver Libertad Mint State against their American counterpart, the American Silver Eagle. And we showcased how there's only 35 million Libertads across all years combined versus 677 million American Silver Eagles. Huge disparity, huge scarcity there on the Libertads. What I want to talk about right now to kick things off is I want to talk about within the Libertad series itself, its top 10 scarcest Libertads. I mean, these are the ones with the lowest mintages across all years. And these top 10 represent only 4% of the total pie of all minted Libertads. The very, very obvious by a country mile is the 2019 antique variety. That's number one. There's only 1,000 of those. That one is scarcest by a country mile. Then you have the 2018 antiqued, followed by the 1991 Type 2. And in a future video, we'll talk about that Type 2. It's very obvious what a Type 2 is versus a Type 1, but can get into the nuances of that at a future date. Next, we have the 98. A lot of folks have been collecting 98s. It was at once known as the scarcest, and I think the market came to realize, hey, those antiques are actually quite rare, and that 91 Type 2, it's actually rarer. But at some point in the past, that 98 was known as the crown jewel of the series, but that really is no longer the case. Then you have the 99, 97, the 2007. I want to quickly talk about the 2018 because I know a lot of the mintage tables out there from Banco and whatnot have 300,000 for that one. And that would have put it in a three-way tie with the 2020 and the 96. But what is the nuance with the 2018? With the 2018, they had to use 40,000 of them and have them antiqued. So yes, 300,000 were minted, but they needed to separate out 40,000 of them to put them through the antique process. So that's why that one is ranked number 8 at 260,000. And then you do have the tie there, the last two, the 2020 and the 96. So I know this wasn't supposed to be the focus of this video, but this is really the key insight in this whole presentation today. It's a real perspective check that for most Libertads, even for the most popular years, the grand majority that were minted have not been submitted for grading. The one key exception is that 2019 antiqued variety. And I mean, I think what's happened there is the market's come to the realization that, hey, this is really the scarcest one. And folks have been in a hot rush to get their hands on one. Since I've gotten my first one, I have seen the price just skyrocket from $200. And now if you're looking at eBay sold listings, when you filter for sold, we're seeing $2,400, $2,500. Huge spike. And I mean, I think that's nothing. On the American Silver Eagle side, folks go nuts for that 1995 W proof and for that 2019 enhanced reverse proof. And I mean, the mintage is 30,000 on those. So we're comparing a mintage of 1,000 on the 2019 antique versus 30,000 mintage coins. So there's so much upside there still, just based on its scarcity. Something else worth highlighting here. I drew there a 1% guardrail. Essentially, it shows you, for the grand majority of the years, less than 1% of the mintage has been graded. what I think is worth noting is a lot of those modern years around 2014, 2015, and so forth, you're starting to see that breach of that 1% threshold. And what's happening there is somewhere around, and we're going to see that highlighted in more detail in a future slide. Starting around those years, you had the big dealers, you had AppMex, you had Modern Coin Mart, you had Paradise Mint, couple of others. They started doing mass submissions to the grading companies, and that's being seen here. And we're going to showcase that even further in a future slide. The other thing that kind of stands out, that 97, 98, 99, those were once considered the scarcest from my understanding prior to when I started collecting in 2021. And so a lot of folks have gone out of their way to really submit those. I think that one's more retail driven, where retail folks are just searching to get a 69 and a 70 in those 3 years. So what I put together here is all the data on the Libertad 1 ounce silver pieces in terms of mintage, the total number of submissions to PCGS and NGC, and the top grades. Essentially, top grades, I'm talking about 69s and 70s. And when you aggregate the 69s and 70s, what percent of the total do they represent? That's basically what's being charted there. I want to highlight a couple of things on here. In those early years, the 82 to 85, there's hardly any top grades at all. I think there are a handful of 69s. In my opinion, those are questionable. I know the late Don Bailey in his Whitman's Encyclopedia of Modern Mexican Money, and I'll show you the picture later on so you could look that up. He references how the quality control was essentially non-existent back then. In my opinion, those 69s that are out there are not even deserved. We'll probably never see a rich amount of 69s or 70s. I think it would expose these grading companies for too much inflation of grade inflation per se if they were to start handing those out. The 92 is showing being the top mintage here. I think I disagree, and a lot of the collectors disagree, that it is not the top mintage coin. It's believed that a lot of those were melted, but we simply don't have line of sight, and this is not something Banco discloses, but there's been evidence that they've melted other coins from other Mexican sets. So that's kind of an outlier there. Really, from the market perspective, 85 is the highest minted year, and there's a whole lot of submissions there, as you can see, to support that big peak for NGC. I think they're at about 14,000 submissions on the 85, and the total mintage is just hovering around the 2 million or slightly over 2 million. The other thing I wanted to highlight on this chart is what I alluded to earlier when I'm talking about the modern years. As silver started going up around 2010, what happened is you had the big dealers. You had AppMex, Modern Coin Mart, Paradise. There's Liberty Coins. There's a bunch of these big dealers, and essentially they started sending bulk submissions. And then as those years progressed, where silver was elevated from depressed levels, they really started shooting up the number of submissions. And while that was happening, the top pops, there were just a whole bunch of them. You see that the top rate line chart, the colored line charts for both companies, just shooting up near 100%. You got to ask yourself, are the grading companies loosening their standards, or are the modern Libertads just that flawless? If you ask my take on it, I've definitely seen 70 slabs for those modern years. They have zero business having a 70. I see on the surface hairline scratch. I see a ding on the rim. No reason they should be having a 70. There is most definitely grading inflation going on, and this chart right here supports it, especially for those modern years. So let's get to the heart of the debate. Who gives out more top grades? Is it NGC or is it PCGS? I think the result here is going to surprise you. It certainly surprised me. I think the perspective of many of us collectors for a while has been that NGC was superior, that it was harder to get a higher grade at NGC than it was PCGS. I've experienced it myself where I've tried to cross over some 69s for equal 69 at NGC, and I was denied the crossover half the time. So I thought to myself, NGC might be the better company, but the numbers are not lying here. If we rank by mintage year and a couple of varieties there for some of the years, and who gave out the higher top grades by year, it's 22 years versus 22 years. It's a tie. And then if we aggregate all the top pops, all the 69s and 70s, these top grades, NGC has given out more. And if we were to go back and analyze the prior chart, something really stood out to me, and it makes sense. BlackRock bought out NGC in 2021. And if you go back and look at some of the bars on the number of submissions that were coming through from 2021 onwards, there was many more submissions to NGC than PCGS, and it looked like they were given a richer number of those submissions, 69s and 70s, because if we were to do this calculation, up to 2020, NGC was superior. But then once you bought in the data from the BlackRock acquisition onward, when you start including those years, that's when we end up with a tie. So I was definitely shocked on this one. I'm including this slide here, I think more for anything than historical context. I want to be able to look back at this slide, and you be able to look back at this slide in a couple of years and see, things have probably changed a lot. And this goes back to the concept that for the most part, less than 1% of the minted coins by date have been graded. So as of right now, these are the scarcest in terms of how many have been graded. The one that's probably going to always be up here is that 2019 antiqued. There's 1,000 of them, so it's impossible that you could have more than 1,000 graded. But the other ones, I absolutely believe they're subject to change. You could have some old collector pass away, their family sell their estate, and a huge chunk of Libertad rolls just pour into NGC or PCGS, start getting graded, and it'll really change things around. So this more than anything, I don't really want to go into deep, rich detail about it. There's no need for it. I just think it will be very neat to have here documented to reference someday in the future. So before we wrap things up with this recap, just a quick little story for you. And as promised, there's the picture there of the Whitman Encyclopedia of Mexican Money, Volume 2. Highly recommend you get your hands on a copy of that book. The book's full of rich detail, particularly on Libertads. Volume 1's on older Mexican coins. Volume 2 is the one you want. It's on modern coins, which includes the Libertads. For me, at the time when I acquired it, there seemed to have been a very limited production of this book. And so the only way to get yourself a copy was to buy it from someone else, a used copy. So I ended up getting my hands on one for about $150 on eBay several years ago. And let me tell you, I don't regret the expenditure. I think it was well worth the money. Lucky for new collectors, Whitman finally decided to publish more of these books. So now they are available for about $40 or so, depending who you get it from. So let's look at the recap. What did we talk about? One of the key highlights was grading inflation is very real, and especially in that post-2010 time period when the dealers really stepped it up with the bulk submissions. Next up, we compared NGC and PCGS and ranked them, and it looks like they're just about neck and neck overall, and with NGC outpacing them on the overall on 69 and 70s for their submissions. But even more important than that, the biggest takeaway you should take from this is forget the rankings. It's that the vast majority of these Libertads are ungraded. So what does that say for you? It means that, when you get a top pop of 69 or 70, don't look at it as a hidden gem. You could be paying a lot of money, and it's just a ticking time bomb. So what you should do is just be patient. Don't overpay. just wait for more submissions to go through, more of the grades to come through. It is nice to have a slab set, particularly in NGC's Blue Angel label. Love that label, by the way. But I mean, you should not be overspending. Just be patient. Wait for the coins to come to you. Click that subscribe button for more data-driven coin analysis.